Welcome, travelers across time and space. Today, we journey back farther than most dare to imagine, to an age before the Imperium of Man even existed, before the first starships crossed the void, before the name, Terra, carried the weight of legends. We go back to the forgotten dawn of humanity, the Age of Terra. Long before the galaxy trembled at the march of space marines or whispered about the horrors of chaos, there was only one world, Earth. A single blue planet drifting through a quiet corner of the Milky Way. For ancient humanity, this world was everything. Their cradle, their battlefield, their hope, and their cage. In those early ages, civilizations rose slowly, shaped by the rhythm of nature, by war, by famine, by brilliance, and by catastrophe. Humanity was young, fragile, divided, and unaware that it was destined to become one of the greatest powers the galaxy would ever know. These forgotten millennia were filled with empires whose names are now half lost to time. Nations fought over land, faith, ideology, and resources. Some of these early empires became mighty, others vanished beneath the sands or beneath the oceans long before the Imperium would take shape. Later scholars of the 41st millennium speak of America, Germany, Africa, Asia, and many others as if they were mythical realms, flickering ghosts recorded in decaying archives. Even legendary cities like Nova York, Atlantis, and Britannia survive only as corrupted data fragments. But in their time, these places were alive with invention. Humanity discovered writing, architecture, mathematics, medicine, philosophy, and, eventually, science. They split the atom. They learned to fly. And then, for the first time in their existence, they broke the chains of gravity and reached into the void. Humanity's first steps beyond Earth were small at first. A solitary footprint on the Moon. A small metal lander on Mars. Satellites circling Terra like tiny silver insects. But these were sparks that would ignite a fire burning for tens of thousands of years. As centuries passed, humanity built orbital stations, permanent lunar bases, and research domes on Mars. The first space elevators were constructed, linking planetary surfaces to the heavens like colossal artificial mountains. The population of Earth soared. Megacities rose, some spanning hundreds of miles, and began pushing upward into the clouds. Earth grew crowded, polluted, exhausted. The environment bent further each century under the weight of human ambition. Some regions collapsed into ruin, while others became fortress metropolises of steel and neon. The skies filled with traffic, orbital lanes with satellites, and factories with endless clouds of smog. Yet despite crisis after crisis, humanity pressed forward. Driven by a singular truth that no other species in the galaxy would ever embody, the refusal to die. It was in this age that the first great unification movements began. Nations that had fought for millennia gradually, painfully, realized their survival depended on cooperation. Wars still raged, sometimes devastating entire continents, but each conflict sparked a greater awareness: Earth could no longer afford division. By the late Age of Terra, humanity was slowly, unevenly, forging the foundations of what would one day become the unified Terran government. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't peaceful. But it was the first step toward a planetary identity, humanity beginning to see itself not as tribes or nations, but as a single species facing a limitless universe. As political shifts unfolded on Earth, another transformation took root on Mars. The first permanent Martian cities became massive industrial hubs. Research outposts grew into sprawling domed metropoles. Beneath the surface, colossal forge complexes were built to manufacture starship components, habitat modules, robotics, and experimental engines. Here, among the rust-red sands, a new kind of belief began to emerge. Early technologists and engineers started treating technology not just as a tool, but as something sacred. They saw patterns in circuits, divinity in algorithms, and purpose in machines. They believed that every device contained a spirit, a motive force that demanded respect. This spiritual technoculture, small at first, would one day evolve into the cult Mechanicus, one of the Imperium's most powerful and influential pillars. But in the Age of Terra, it was only an idea. A whisper. A spark waiting to become a flame. Meanwhile, advances in science exploded. Artificial intelligence, primitive compared to the horrors and wonders to come, began analyzing data at speeds no human mind could match. Early self-learning machines ran factories, stabilized ecosystems, predicted weather, or assisted with orbital logistics. Humanity had not yet suffered through the Men of Iron uprising. They still believed that machines were the future, not a threat. Space exploration became increasingly ambitious. Terraforming projects began on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. The first-generation ships, colossal vessels designed to house thousands of passengers for dozens of lifetimes, launched into the void, carrying humanity's dreams to distant stars. Many of these voyages ended in tragedy. Ships vanished. Resources failed. Entire generations lived and died without ever seeing a planet beneath their feet. But some succeeded. Human settlements began to appear light years away, fragile but determined. With each new colony, humanity learned, painfully, how vast the galaxy truly was. Back on Earth, technological leaps continued at an unprecedented pace. Genetic engineering entered mainstream science. Cybernetics became common, with some individuals replacing entire limbs with advanced prosthetics. Orbital rings were constructed, enormous megastructures encircling Earth to serve as shipyards, habitats, trade hubs, and energy collectors. For the first time in its existence, humanity was no longer bound to a single world. It was becoming a multi-planetary species. Yet with progress came danger. Humanity's growing emotional and psychic presence began to disturb the warp, the immaterium, the dimension of thought, emotion, and nightmare. The psychic echoes of billions of human minds caused subtle ripples. Imperceptible at first, growing slowly. No one understood what was happening. No one realized they were awakening ancient forces. Humanity marched forward blind to the storm on the horizon. As Terra transformed into a world of towering megastructures and orbital spires, researchers began experimenting with warp-based propulsion. Primitive engines tapped into the edge of the immaterium, unstable, unpredictable, but capable of bending reality just enough to shorten travel times. Most attempts ended in catastrophic failure. Some ships were lost, others returned damaged, or twisted. But humanity persisted. Eventually, the first viable warp drives were created. It was humanity's greatest achievement, and the moment the Age of Terra came to an end. Because once warp travel became possible, nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. This breakthrough ushered in the dark age of technology, a golden era of wonders and nightmares where humanity reached incredible heights, and sowed the seeds of its future downfall. Some historians believe that around this time, the first navigator bloodlines emerged. Mutated humans who could see into the warp and guide vessels safely through it. These mutations were poorly understood and often feared, but they would one day become absolutely essential, the backbone of interstellar travel for the Imperium. Yet even in this age of rapid expansion and discovery, the scars of old Earth remained. Wars still flared, crimes persisted, inequality deepened. But humanity endured, stubborn and unyielding. It refused to collapse. It refused to vanish. It refused to bow to fate. And so, when scholars of the far future look back upon the Age of Terra, they see more than a forgotten chapter in human history. They see the foundation of everything that was to come: the Imperium, the Great Crusade, the Horus Heresy, the endless wars against Xenos and demons. All of it began here, with a young species, on a fragile blue world, daring to dream bigger than the sky. Terra today is a planet of metal, prayer, and eternal war. But long ago, it was a world of oceans, forests, and hope. That world is gone, but its legacy lives on in every colony, every starship, every soldier who raises their weapon in the name of humanity. The Age of Terra is the story of beginnings, the first spark of the civilization that now spans 1,000,000 worlds. It is a story of ambition, discovery, mistakes, triumphs, loss, and unbreakable will. It is the story of humanity standing at the edge of the unknown, ready to reach for the stars.